Politics with KO, Thursdays on this channel, Sky 182.
Difficult to actually pick what is sincere, whether politicians are saying the truth. You have to run sometimes to get out of the road when there's no traffic light. But one thing is sure, Nigerians want a conversation about their country. What we do on Politics with KO is get the conversation rolling about Nigeria and Africa. And it's 9 p.m. UK time, 10 p.m. Nigerian time during the winter period.
Hello, good evening viewers. It's Politics with KO and we're here again, another Thursday, live from London. And last week we had an interesting time with Fatima about Borno State, Maiduguri. But tonight we're going away from Borno State. We're going to Ogun State. There's this man who is the epitome of anti-corruption campaign in Nigeria. He's been a former military ruler and he was elected by Nigerians in 1999 as a civilian president. He went into the presidency with less than 9,000 naira. And guess what? He got out with a huge mountain view mansion in Ogun State, southwest Nigeria. Not just that, he suddenly becomes so wealthy that he can sponsor quite a number of young people into politics. But that's not the controversy. He's so benevolent to the Nigerian people that he formed a foundation called Obasanjo Foundation. Well, meant to do good to Nigeria and bless people across the world. Wait for it. Mr. Obasanjo and his foundation are enmeshed in a controversy that will be traced back to the UK. Big money in UK banks, alleged deals, and we're going to play you a very interesting secret recording, courtesy of Sahara Reporters, on the Obasanjo Foundation saga. Now the question is, how much does General Obasanjo know about these deals? But first, let me introduce huge guests in the studio. Kadiria Ahmed.
Hey, Kaide.
Yes, you're welcome. We've got Kadiria Ahmed in the studio. She's a known broadcaster in Nigeria, worked with the BBC, has got a huge show in Nigeria, TV program in Nigeria, Talk Straight with Kadiria Ahmed. And we're so pleased to have her in the studio. And I also have Kadiria to support her in the studio, Omolara. Omolara, I just prefer to just call her with her first name because she's just simply one of those Nigerians who worked outside Nigeria. She works in Ghana, and now she's in the UK for a conference, and she's been kind enough to say she's going to join us in the studio. Omolara, you're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and then, you know, we're not going to make it an all-female affair. I've got live from London, Dikpo. Ogbeni Dikpo is one Nigerian who is huge on social media and is quite passionate about anti-corruption. Let's see if we still have Dikpo. Dikpo, good evening.
Mr. Coyote.
Hello, Dikpo, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm very fine. And you?
I'm fine. So, well, we're going to discuss General Obasanjo's anti-corruption campaign and this new controversy. But first, let us give our viewers a benefit of what is behind the scene, the secret recording of Anne Welsh. Anne Welsh is this young, beautiful Nigerian lady who met General Obasanjo in Belgium in a conference. And coincidentally, Obasanjo felt you'll be useful for me and took her to Nigeria and made her a director of his foundation. Now, Anne Welsh was secretly recorded purporting to help transfer huge sums of money to Nigerian banks, sort of like slush funds. Now, just let's hear from Anne Welsh herself, so that it won't be like I'm putting words into her mouth. If that is ready, producer would let us roll with it. Let's have a background to this conversation.
One of the things that, you know, we make, if you like, a habit of calling for is that, you know, if you've got that sort of language, if you've got that, it's the duty of government, it's the duty of members of parliament, it's the duty of whoever to actually, you know, if you condemn that, you shut that down. You know, this idea about, you know, why do we have these people here is, well, you know, look at your economy for a start, you know. It's just, and it's also then down.
Oh, sorry. Well, there was a mix-up. That happens in live shows. You know, you're eager to push something exclusive out, and then something goes wrong. But we're going to search for that tape. We're going to have you listen to Anne Welsh. This was a secret recording that took place in London, And guess what? You're going to love this. And Welsh, for the benefit of our viewers again, is an Obasanjo trustee, the ex-chairman of his foundation. Let's see if the tape is ready now. The proper and Welsh tape. Let's have it so that our viewers would know what we're talking about.
And in each country, like for instance Sierra Leone, we have the Lebanese community, committee of the Lebanese community. And the Congo, they have it. In Nigeria, they have it. In Guinea, they have it. Everywhere, they have it. So what I do is this. I tell them that we need contribution. And we are to help out for the Ebola section. We get contribution. I get contribution from everywhere.
You make them give you contributions.
Well,
they don't do business.
Well, we tell them to do contribution, and they do certain contribution. Now we have a certain amount of contribution that came in. Now
I know the actual figures.
For today, we know the figures, but this figure could increase
Substantially.
Now what we need is this. We need to transfer these funds to a charitable organization, which is
If you had yours, would have transferred it there.
most probably. Well, we need to do that. Of course, this charitable organization will receive the total amount of which
That's coming.
They will only keep 50% of that.
Can we speak frankly?
Yeah.
Can I speak frank on it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I like honesty.
Okay.
Did you order the coffee?
Yes. Let me just honestly and frankly. We're going to put, let's say, 2 million for the charity. That's going to show 2 million. In Africa, what's in the bank doesn't show unless we want them to show. Alright? But in fact, it's going to be.
And it has to go, and I'll be frank. I'll be asking a question very frankly. It has to first, the first initial amount of money has to go straight to a charity. The whole thing, the whole lump sum.
We're going to
it has to go straight to a charity.
No. Look.
It can't go to an account, then charity.
I don't care.
Because I'm so worried about charity commission.
Okay. I don't care
Yeah.
how it goes on accounts.
Okay.
Just when it's done, little piece of paper saying thank you for your contribution.
And does it have to say the specific amount
No.
that was contributed?
They don't know what this amount is in Africa.
Okay.
What they give, they don't know.
Okay, that's what I want to be clear.
This is why,
that would help me.
This is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
The actual figure at the moment, okay, is almost, we're clear past money, let's say 4.9.
Okay.
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 Alright.
Alright, so 4.9 is up there. And
large.
Which is money we need to contribute to charity.
No.
I know. Half of that. No. But I'm just starting. Let's start with, let's say 2. Okay. The one that has to.
I don't even want to show an amount. What you want to declare?
Because
that
we don't like normally. Sometimes we get donors who come to give money to our foundation. They say they don't want to be known that they gave that money, but they want to have a letter from the foundation, like a headed paper, and a letter from President Obasanjo, just to say thank you for your kind donation to the foundation for the work to support Ebola. That's it. That's what we normally do.
Okay.
Now, viewers, this is interesting. Okay, let me. I've got a full transcript here because we got a bad audio. You know, it's a secret recording. There's no opportunity to put the lights and adjust the Miss Ann Welsh. You know, so this was secretly recorded. Now, let me quote. Ann Welsh said, 4.9 million is the money we are supposed to give to a charity. Look, let me go straight to Kaderia. Now, when this came to your attention, what went through your mind, you know, that for huge sum of money to be transmitted
it's a very weighty tape, because the allegations, if they're proved to be correct, are very, very serious. You have to remember that there's a lot of people, particularly on our continent, that rely on the work of NGOs, you know, to sort of make things happen. If you think about the role that NGOs played in the fight against Ebola, for example, in Sierra Leone and Liberia, and then to now get allegations that as an NGO that is being run by a former head of state, very well respected globally, is being used, because that's the allegation, for money laundering. I mean, that is major. And there's enough in that tape, I think, to warrant an investigation. And I think the Met, which is the Metropolitan Police in London, is, you know, starting an investigation. But the thing is, you have to ask also, because the tape raises a lot of questions. I'm interested in who recorded it.
Okay.
You know, because it was clearly a sting operation. We're still not clear who these shadowy people are that decided to set up the Obasanjo Foundation and Welsh, and what motivated them. I think the tape will get a little bit more credibility if the people who actually put together the sting operation are able to come out openly and say, we did it, and the reason we did it is because we suspected there might be something going on. I'd like to hear from them.
Okay, I know we still have Dipo on the line, but first let me go to Omolara. Now, you have experience with civil society. How does it work in terms of funding for civil society groups?
Well, I would say that civil society groups, majorly in Africa, are quite dependent on international funding. Funding coming from international organizations or international agencies, from donors based in Europe, in America. So it's quite the norm that you get funding, you get funded for your projects, for whatsoever project you're doing. From abroad, and it's been the norm forever since.
Do they go through a lot of due process? Like we've got Lebanese, some young Lebanese guys saying, we're going to give Obasanjo Foundation 4.9 million. Just keep $900,000 to yourself, and whatever you do, we don't care. Just give us a thank you letter. What would they have wanted to do with just a thank you letter in exchange for 4.9 and 2 million slush fund?
Well, I'm very shocked because it's the first time I'm actually hearing about this, and I'm really interested. I've heard about Obasanjo Foundation, but I'm not so I don't have complete information or fact as regards this particular allegation. So I think it's something that is worth investigating. The foundation must mean well in terms of its mandate, which it's quite clear on their website.
All right, let's quickly get to Dipo. Dipo, you live in the UK, and we spent many years, we spent several months trying to get Ibori to jail for corruption charges. Gladly is resting his ills in one of Her Majesty's prison, and we are happy to feed himself and his collaborators. Why wouldn't they learn that the UK is not a place where you can just come and start keeping stolen wealth, or you will start transferring illegal funds? Why did Anne Welsh think she was going to get away with that in the UK?
I think at the end of the day, what she was trying to do, I'm sure she didn't really know there was a sting operation. She didn't actually know anyone was actually recording her. I mean, I think it is quite nice that it has come to the open that this is the kind of person she is, and this is what she was doing. But like you did rightly mention, if this were to be in Nigeria, nothing is going to happen. She may not even get fired. She may still maintain her position and continue enjoying whatever she's enjoying. Okay. Do you believe General Obasanjo did not know anything about this? I mean, it must be the girl, the Anne Welsh stated in that tape that, look, this is not the first time where I'm doing this. I've helped people transfer funds across the world. If General Obasanjo, who is a member of the board, see millions of dollars coming into the organization, why didn't he ask questions? Okay, I think at the end of the day, she may actually have been saying the things she's saying. I mean, it may actually have been true, and it may actually have been her trying to convince those who she was trying to get money from. Okay. So we can't actually 100% for sure say that she was acting on behalf of Obasanjo. Okay. But one thing that I think is important is that, like one of the speakers actually rightly mentioned, this is going to be investigated, and we are going to get to the bottom of this. Okay. And that is why it is actually very good and very interesting. But if it was in Nigeria, like you did mention earlier, nothing is going to be done. I mean, if you consider what is going on in Ogun State, where a fugitive has now been elected a senator, and people are worshipping this fellow. Okay. You can actually imagine that Ibori as well was hero worshipped in Nigeria.
Okay.
on several occasions, and nothing happened to him.
Okay, Dipo, just hold on your thoughts here. I would like to bring in Kaderia into this conversation now. Kaderia, what is going to be the perception, you know, on non-government organizations in Nigeria, and if people coming from Nigeria and they say, look, we represent this interest, we're doing business on behalf of NGOs, in terms of confidence building?
Well, look, the good thing about this is that, like Dipo said, this is happening in the UK. So we know for a fact that it is going to be investigated and investigated thoroughly. At the moment, it is an allegation.
Okay.
And like I said, because we're still not clear who recorded the tape, because we're not sure who put together the sting. You know, normally, traditionally in the UK here, newspapers would do sting operations, but they will quickly own up to it, because in fact, they'll be the ones to come out and make that sting operation public. So you kind of know the quality and you understand the motive, and so you're clear about the credibility of what you've got. In this case, we don't have that. But thankfully, it is the UK, so we're going to get a thorough investigation, and we will find out if it is true.
Okay.
If it is true, it is extremely damaging, not just to Nigerian NGOs, I think to Africans generally, who sort of come to the UK because it is very accessible, because we understand the way things work here, because it is easy, and because we get support from their government. So it would be very, very difficult for people to come and say, okay, we want to do this. The problem with having one bad egg is that it can actually then spoil all of the eggs in the basket.
Okay, and for the benefit of, they say I should try and be fair-minded on this program. So I want to fairly say General Obasanjo has denied any involvement. He has said, you know, I didn't know anything about it. In fact, the foundation claimed they had reported the matter to the UK police so that it would be investigated. That is coming from the Obasanjo Foundation. General Obasanjo also said that he was deeply embarrassed by the allegations, and that Ann Welsh, who is the greedy, quote and unquote, former head of the foundation, has been sacked from the foundation. So I'm being fair there. You always say I should be fair. Now, what civil society, how strong, how relevant is it to have a civil society, and then we have the state in terms of capacity building? How can we build the capacity of civil society? Let's leave the controversy and rest it for a while before I release the phone for our viewers.
Well, civil society organizations are very important, especially when we are talking about issue of good governance. Okay. And this is the stage where African government or African countries are currently deepening democracies across board. And the role of civil society cannot be underplayed. Civil society stands as the good partner to government to support government in the primary work that government is supposed to be doing. So we have a number of civil society who are involved in providing basic amenities, borehole water, and schools, basic amenities within the community for the people.
But the excuse I would say is that you guys, civil society seems to be taking away well, it doesn't matter whether government keeps stealing, so long as we UK taxpayers pump money into civil society, provide schools, and the government are they holding governments to account? Definitely,
and that is another major role of civil society, to hold government accountable to various promises that they've made, perhaps during the elections, or even hold them accountable to what they are supposed to be doing. If government,
but you see, part of the problem, Kade, if I may say so, with the way civil society has operated in the past, is they do all these good things, but what this allegation, for example, brings to the fore is the question of who polices the civil society.
And that has been a big argument for a while. Because of issues like this, though, like I said, I'm not so sure of what transpired in this case. We have some governments that have been trying to shrink the space of civil society. It's a tiny space that exists outside the government, outside the private sector, and outside the family. So it's very small to start with. And we have government that have been trying to shrink the space further by creating draconian policies to reduce the flexibility of civil society. Where we don't have civil society, then government can get away with whatever they do. There's been a lot of question on civil society is supposed to be the watchdog of the society. But who is going to watch civil society?
Okay, hold on to that. Dipo, you're still there with us. Now, Dipo, what can we do in the UK? The way we pushed for the Ibori case, what can we do to make sure Ann Welsh is brought to justice? If really she's been doing it in the past, that's what she claims in the transcript. How can Nigerians in the UK make sure this case does not go away?
I mean, at the end of the day, what we need to do is keep speaking about the issue, but I really doubt if we have so much to do. If it was in Nigeria, then we would have said, okay, we need to make noise about this on social media or start protesting about this and doing all of that. But in the UK, definitely there's going to be an investigation, and definitely the investigation is going to be very thorough.
Okay.
One major thing I want to say here, I mean, linking this back to politics, is that Obasanjo immediately fired this person.
That's true.
He wasn't going around and trying to defend her or trying to protect her. And I'm very happy that Buhari is coming in as president from the 29th of May.
Okay.
And this is quite good because he's a man who has stood, I mean, for integrity and corruption for so many years. So whoever steals our public money in Nigeria will not get the protection that, I mean, I don't want to go on calling names now, but in the last 5 years, there are a number of people who have gotten protection from the highest of the offices in the land. But this is not going to be the case anymore from the 9th of May 2015.
Okay, Karia was wanted to you are nodding there.
Yeah, and the thing is this, because this is really clearly a case of an attempt to launder money, or at least that's the way it was presented, and she was willing, it seemed on tape, to launder money. Money laundering is dangerous, not only because it is an avenue in which public office holders, mostly from Africa, are able to take money that they should use for public service away. This is also an era in which we're talking about security issues, where you've got terrorism, and so you are asking questions about where the funding comes for, you know, groups like Boko Haram, like ISIL, like ISIS, all of them together. And this is why it is a very, very serious allegation, because essentially when you help launder money and people are able to take money that can't be accounted for, can't be traced, that money can be used for a multitude of sins, including attacking regular people and killing them.
Okay, you wanted to say something?
Yes, in fact, the last time I mentioned about some governments who have put in place certain policies that tries to reduce the space in which civil society functions. We also have some government that have actually, as part of this regulations process, have created a threshold for the amount of money that civil society can bring in, that NGO can access, both in West Africa and in Eastern Africa. We have governments that have actually set $100,000 as the highest you can bring into to your NGO. If you are going to bring in something that is more than that, money that is more than that, then you have to pass through a government recognized and approved bank, which we believe is a way to further reduce the capacity of civil society. So it's issues like this that makes governments to take some of these decisions.
Sort of justifies their position.
Well, it's not, because there's been a lot of uproar against that. In addition, we have governments that believes that civil society organizations are being used to launder money to topple incumbent government. So we have all these issues going up on that. I mean, the credibility of civil society is a broad issue that we should be talking about. It is important that we look at how we govern ourselves as civil society, and then how much legitimacy do we have.
I would want to, Dikwa, we want to release you. Any final words, because we want our viewers to be able to call in. Any final, what are your final thoughts on this?
Mr. Kayode, my final thoughts on this, I'll go back to politics again. From the end of this month and from the beginning of Buhari's regime, whoever steals public funds should be prosecuted. It's as simple as ABC. Our universities are suffering, our health sector is in tatters. Whoever steals public resources in Nigeria has to be punished. They have to face the court. Thank you, Mr. Kayode.
Okay, thank you so much, Dikwa. It was good to have you. Viewers, you can now call in. The phone numbers remain 0208-808-0693. That is, if you're calling from within the UK. If you're calling from outside the UK, it's +208 +44 208-808-0693. And it's still Politics with KO. By the time we come back, we're going to have the phone lines open. But first, some Nigerians in the UK met with Jean Lambert, the MEP, the Green Party MEP for London. They just had a general conversation about the election and what she's been doing to assist Nigerians in the UK. Let's have that tape, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation on the Obasanjo Foundation. Don't go away, it's still Politics with KO.
I just want to say a word or two on that. I mean, I think you're right that one of the things that, you know, we make, if you like, a habit of calling for is that, you know, if you've got that sort of language, if you've got that, it's the duty of government, it's the duty of members of parliament, it's the duty of whoever to actually, you know, you condemn that, you shut that down. You know, this idea about, you know, why do we have these people here is, well, you know, look at your economy for a start, you know. It's just, and it's also then down to this feeling that if you don't want those people here, then, you know, why have we got South Africans anywhere else in the world then? Mm-hmm. You know, that you do the reciprocal, that you don't let your people leave if you don't want others to arrive. It is the logic, and it's a bizarre, it's a stupid logic. Leads you nowhere. So you would be looking for that sort of condemnation, no two ways about it. And you're right that it encourages, if you don't get that, then effectively what you're tacitly doing is encouraging vigilantism. You know, it is this thing about who then asks for your identity card. And I would have thought the issue about being asked for your identity card in South Africa would have been very, very sensitive for a hell of a lot of people. Absolutely. Who really thought those days would have been behind them. I would have thought. I mean, you know, that's just my view on it. Yeah, and it's exactly the sort of thing in the sense that you're seeing here now, more and more people being required by government to check people's identity. Whether you're a landlord, you check their identity, you check their immigration status. Yeah. You know, and for me that's absolutely out of order. But there was also the question about sort of the European Union, and I was just looking through the Parliament resolution that I mentioned from this Thursday. And one of the things that, you know, it is saying, and this will be communicated, you know, to the government in Nigeria, will be asking for a thorough investigation of the allegations of human rights violations, including extrajudicial killings, torture, arbitrary arrest, and extortion-related abuses, and believes such actions cannot be justified as a means of combating the threat posed by Boko Haram or other terrorist organisations. And it also talks about reforms to Nigeria's judicial system, urgently needed in order to provide effective criminal justice to combat terrorism, as well as reform of the Nigerian state security forces. So that was in our Parliament, the European Parliament's resolution. I mean, what notice will be taken of it, I don't know. But, you know, that's there.
You're welcome back, viewers. It's still your program, Politics with KO, no holds bar. And tonight we're discussing the Obasanjo Foundation controversy. And quite a number of you've been trying to call, but we had Deepo on the line. Now the lines are open, 0208-808-0693. And the first question via text message is from Manchester. Cyril says, do civil societies in Nigeria register with the equivalent of company houses where they are statutorily required to submit their annual account? This OBJ Foundation saga may be the tip of the iceberg with NGOs in Nigeria. Who would want to take that?
They do register. I mean, you have to, the registration for foundations and charitable, you know, organizations, it actually takes a little bit longer when you fill out the forms and all that. And the idea is there's supposed to be more due diligence carried out, because technically they're supposed to check on who the trustees are, because you have to have trustees, etc., etc. Now, whether that check actually happens, I'm not too sure, to be honest.
Well, I would say yes, they do check and they go through some due diligence, you know, they go through registration and all of that. What is required of civil society organization? And let me state here that one major challenge that civil society organizations have been battling with for a while is in terms of their institutional strengthening. Okay. You know, civil society has evolved over the years from the associational gathering, and you know, most of civil society in West Africa, for example, came forth during the Civil War period, during the conflict period in Liberia and Sierra Leone. And after the democracy that we now have in those 2, 3, 4 countries has been put in place, quite a number of them have been struggling on how to put their foot down to become a registered, dynamic, organized organization. So in a situation where civil society organization does not have a financial system in place, if you don't have a board in place, like she mentioned, if you don't have a governance system in place, because now civil society is evolving to becoming professionalized.
Okay.
We have professionals now working in civil society. An average civil society should be able to publish its annual budget or annual financial record every year.
Okay, let me, Kadira, what is it with Nigerian organizations? In the UK, I've been here since 2003. First, it was a Pentecostal church that was found guilty of financial recklessness. They were punished. Then another Pentecostal church came in, fell in the same trap.
You see, the thing is this,
and now an NGO.
no, because we like to speak about Nigerian organizations, institutions, as if they live in isolation outside the wider Nigerian society. We've seen a decay, you know, over the last 20 years in our country. And that decay is all over the institutions. It's in our educational system, it's in our courts, it's in the media, it's everywhere. And so you're not going to be able to get this organization that is cleaner than clean emerging from that society. And so the reform you have to look at is a reform that is based on, you know, a holistic reform. It's a change of thinking, a change of culture, and a change in acceptance, because we have developed a tolerance for things that are wrong. And, you know, this thing about civil society was critical to the elections that just finished in Nigeria. Absolutely. We had things like the Situation Room. We had all sorts of organizations coming together, making sure that people's votes counted. So that space that she talks about, I don't want to see it narrow. And that is why what we saw on that tape is really, really dangerous, because it has the potential to undermine what good work civil society is doing and give excuses to governments that don't want to come under scrutiny, you know, to actually allow civil society, to take advantage and to work.
Well, let me come to you. Do we have enough civil society organizations to serve the population of Africa or of developing countries?
Well, I would say we can never have enough. This is not to say that we don't have enormous number of civil society across the region, in West Africa, for example. In countries like Ghana, Liberia, we have more than 5,000 civil society organizations, functional organizations. And the contributions that civil society has been making, or that they do make to government and development generally, it's something that will continue to be. But one thing that we should look at is the issue of corruption broadly. There is corruption
but before we go into that, look, listen, I think the sort of civil society that we have for now is good, but I don't see Africans getting involved. So a lot of the funding that comes for civil society operating in Africa now is foreign money.
Well, I think
I'd like to see the Dangotes of this world. I'd like to see, yes, I know, but there's the scale and the impact till tomorrow. If you look at the work Osiwa is doing, if you look at the work Ford is doing, if you look at the work that you know, many international foundations are doing.
I agree
and so
with
what
you.
I'm saying is, I'd like to see more Africans become more engaged. Look at, for example, things around housing. I mean, he works with the Peabody Trust, where there's social housing for people that are disadvantaged. Where is the Nigerian NGO that is concerned with helping to provide housing?
I think I should share this. There's been current thinking around how to build a robust philanthropic system or philanthropic heart in Africa. I would agree with you that we don't have too many philanthropists
within
in Africa. However, this is not to say, in fact, in a meeting I was a couple of months back, we realized that an average rich African would be willing and happy to give to the churches. And let's not forget that the churches are also part of civil society, the religious institution. We call them faith-based institutions. So it's a matter of culture, and there are cultures that we need to, you know, promote.
But that is what I'm saying. That we
don't have quite a number of them. We don't.
Let's hear from our viewers. Our first caller tonight. Hello, good evening.
Good evening. I've been listening to your program about civil organizations.
What's your name and where are you calling from, please?
My name is Prince. I'm calling from London.
All right, go ahead, Prince.
The challenge we have in Africa is that some of these civil organizations have become so entwined with corruption as well. The lady of, I don't know, I didn't pick her name from the screen, was saying she wants the Dangotes of this world to start funding civil.
Yeah, that's Kaderia,
in Africa. Where did Dangote get his money from? How can corruption fund an organization?
You see, it's only you that can say that. If I did say it now, they will say Kayode has said that.
The challenge we have in Africa is now we refuse, we want to fly without laying the foundational fabric of civil society. She says the funding comes from foreign bodies. I can bet you some of these foreign bodies that fund civil societies in Africa, when they go for a comprehensive audit of these civil societies, they'll be shocked. Because I know of a civil organization in Nigeria, for example, where the people that are receiving the funding are coming back here to UK, to Ireland, and buying houses. The funding, the corruption in the system is something that needs to be addressed.
Okay, thank you so much for that call, so that we can have other people calling. We appreciate your call.
Let me quickly take on this issue of
corruption. How can corruption
fund corruption? Listen, I'm pragmatic when it comes to these things. I don't think that, you know, we can sit down and say that in the next year or two, we can prove that Dangote made his money from corruption and strip him of everything he has. He's made that money. He's Africa's richest man. I want to see some of that money put into society. I mean, now that is not an argument against saying we should not have robust systems that stop people from stealing further or from having monopolies and all that. But I'm saying the ones that have already made it, while you are investigating them and before you find them guilty, if you find them guilty and, you know, they say give back all the money, by all means give back all the money. Before you do, and given, you know, where Nigeria is, it's going to be a very long process. Can we please have some of that money to build houses for children who are sleeping under the bridge, you know, who are in the slums of Ajegule without toilets, without water? Can some of that money be used towards things like that?
Before you go, I've got a question on social media, and that's to Omolara Balogun. We have an empirical evidence in this case. Why not let's resolve this issue straight away? That's a show at Atidon on Twitter. Is referring to the Obasanjo Foundation saga. That what more evidence do you need, man? She's admitted on tape.
Well, like she mentioned when we started, the saga will have to be investigated. The people that pulled the sting will have to come out to say this is why, this was the intention, our intention of pulling this up, and now we're out. They have to put it out to the public before we can hold anyone accountable. I haven't followed the story very closely.
So we must.
No, I don't think it's so. I think it helps the credibility, but I am absolutely certain that the Met Police, that this matter has been reported to, is investigating it. And they will investigate it. And if we haven't heard anything, it's because the investigations are not over. Once the investigations are over, we will know whether they believe this is legitimate or not.
We've got another caller on the line before Omolara comes in. Hello, good evening, caller.
Hello, good evening.
Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Yeah, my name is Mark. I'm calling from London.
All right, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I just want to ask, we are talking about civil society, and someone mentioned, one of your panelists mentioned Dangote and something like that.
Yes.
Including international civil society are guilty of the same crime as well.
Thank you.
If you listen, I know you know a lot, but some of the time, most of your listeners don't want you to say what you know. all that you know. If you check a foundation of Bill Gates in Nigeria that has to do with immunization, if you listen to Bill Gates, when he spoke on depopulation, on the third organization, his immunization is about depopulating the third world countries.
Okay.
If you listen to it on YouTube, it's still on YouTube.
Okay. Okay,
I mean, there's always been that controversy about whether,
but this is conspiracy theory.
No. See, the thing is this. There is
educate themselves in things like that.
So we're mixing up two things.
Okay.
Immunization in northern Nigeria was very controversial a few years back, if you remember the Pfizer scandal. Because there was suspicion that people were being told they were being immunized for polio, but what it was that they were being given birth control drugs, you know, and people came out against it. So there's that issue. But the Gates Foundation has an immunization program, you know, separate, but they've also made it clear that they believe that women who want access to family planning should get it. Now, that is very controversial, even here, because there are people who say, who gives a white man and a white woman, i.e. Bill and Melinda Gates, the right to go to Africa and decide for Africa how many kids women, you know, how because in most cases these are women who may not understand the issues and are not able to make the choices. My personal belief is that women should be able to decide for themselves, but I'd like for them to be equipped with the education, so that the decisions,
what they are getting.
so that the decisions are informed, and they're not, you know, being forced to do what they don't want to do.
Is my caller still there? Okay, it's done. We want you to, my producer is saying you need to drop your phone at home so that others can call in.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment about the Dangote Foundation. What we should realize is that Dangote is a businessman. And as it is with most businesses, you have to have a corporate social responsibility. So whatever he gives through his foundation is his responsibility that he has to. And we should not downplay that. We can hold him accountable on other fronts, which I don't have a problem with. But that, we could
in all fairness to our viewers, well, for those who don't know him, Aliko Dangote is the richest, one of the richest men in the world, in Africa, in Nigeria. And of course, he does a lot of corporate social responsibilities. He donates and elects government. He donated a lot to the government of Goodluck Jonathan. I know that the Buhari organization might have, I'm not sure, but he keeps his pie, you know, he knows the onion, so he does donate a lot. But the issue is corruption funding corruption. Let me, Kadere, but the fact is most of these civil society organizations, almost 70% of the donations go on them flying first class, paying staff, and
I mean, this is an accusation you can label at virtually every organization, including UN bodies, you know, UNESCO, all of those. There's always been that allegation that, look, the money that they actually get, their budget, a bulk of it goes on recurrent expenditure. So salaries for their staff, 4x4 wheels for them to move around, travel, and that eventually only a little tiny percentage goes to doing the work. I know in recent times, at least here in this country, what organizations have done that have realized that their donors are beginning to ask questions is to commit and say, look, we promise you only maybe 20% of whatever you give us is going to go towards administrative costs.
Absolutely.
And the rest is not. But this is a progression, you know, it's something that societies get to as they advance and they get better.
I can tell you there is very few donors would give you funding that will make you spend, that will allow you to spend 70% of the funding on administrative cost. The internationally recognized percentage, having worked in the sector for over 11 years, is 15 to 20.
Okay, on administrative.
On administrative, and every other, the 80% goes into programming, the actual thing you promise to do.
Okay, I think we've got a caller on the line. Hello, good evening, caller.
Yeah.
Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Samuel.
Yeah. Go ahead, Samuel.
I'm calling from Hackney.
All right, go ahead.
I've been listening to you. You have been mentioning Aliko Dangote for so many times.
Yes.
Please don't demonize Aliko Dangote. He's not the richest man in Nigeria. Where do you put Absalami Abubakar? Where do you put Ohio America?
Femi Otedola? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, go ahead.
Where do you put Ohai Mike Ahigbe? Where do you put Babangida Ibrahim? Where do you put Abubakar, former head of state? These people are so rich.
Yeah.
They're just using Aliko Dangote to cover up.
Okay.
Please don't demonize Aliko Dangote.
Thank you.
What he has done with his own money.
Okay, thank
what
you.
What are all these people doing with their own money?
Thank you so much for that observation, and that's the fact that we have.
We've had this discussion before,
thank you,
isn't it?
And I think you share that opinion. That
and I said to you, look,
Aliko Dangote always be the easy bogeyman that people
because he's
popular.
But his money is also out in the open.
Exactly.
Right? So he's investing his money back home. And I've always said, if there's something to be said for him, is the fact that he's an employer of labor. Thousands of people, and therefore hundreds of families, are benefiting from the fact that he's chosen to put his wealth back into Nigeria. We well know there are people who've been in government, who've stolen lots of funds, and they're sitting in different accounts all over the country. When they die, Nigeria loses that money. You know, we don't get the benefit of it. And so this is not, I want to be clear, because I don't want people on Twitter attacking me and saying, I'm saying you can steal or be corrupt or be a monopolist as long as you are investing in Nigeria. But I am saying that there's a certain degree of pragmatism that is required when our problem is as big as it is. While we're building the institutions that are going to sort of lock up all the thieves and do all the things, this is a gradual journey. We have to begin to do things that work.
If you have experience, Omolara, in civil society. Now, if I know an organization that I think is corrupt, like I visited Nigeria, and there's this organization that says during the election, they're enlightening people in the rural areas on how to vote. And I didn't see anything. I only saw billboards in Lagos. And they got lots of funding from international organizations. Now, how do we bring them to account?
Well, I don't know the organization you're speaking
about.
Yeah, that's
what I'm not going to mention.
And I didn't participate so deeply in Nigerian elections. But if you have evidence to hold them accountable to the fact that they didn't do what they promised to do, you know, to enlighten the people on how to vote and all of that, and then you know whoever funded them.
So we'll go to the funder.
Yes, you can report them to the funder to say, well, these people got this money from you, and they promised to do A, B, C, and Z, but they didn't do it.
Okay, viewers, you've heard that. If you know any, and look, I'm making a special appeal. If you know any Nigerian NGO, or irrespective, whether based in Nigeria or based here, and they get funds,
have your evidence,
and they don't. The organizer is buying one jeep after the other, does not have any other legitimate business, and you have clear evidence that they're not using money for what they're meant to do. Please report to the
Please stop having a go at NGOs
that you see are already budgeted for in most cases. So please, the fact that they drive jeep and 4 wheels and all of that doesn't mean that they've stolen money to buy it. These are part of their project vehicles.
Let's hear from my caller. Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Hello, good evening. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Yeah, my name is James. I'm calling from Luton in Bedfordshire.
All right, go ahead, please.
Yes, I am trying to contribute towards this corruption in Nigeria.
Good. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, corruption is embedded in the Nigerian system. A Nigerian woman who is pregnant, who has not given birth to any child, the child is already corrupt.
Okay, that's a new one. All right, go ahead.
So that Buhari or so is coming to clean corruption is a joke.
Okay.
Corruption is embedded in the blood and vein of any Nigerian. What Nigeria needs is a radical government, either military or whatever, to do away with all these corruption. People who have embezzled money and are wallowing the money up and down without employing any of our graduates.
Okay, as a Nigerian, do you see yourself as a corrupt person?
No.
Sorry?
No.
Okay, then it means it's not every Nigerian that are corrupt then. Thanks so much for your call. But there's
I need to say something.
I need to drop this. Yeah. No matter how bad a democratic settings may be, we cannot afford to go back the old way. No matter what it is. No. I mean, we are all trying to deepen our democracy. We are trying to fix our institutions. We are trying to put things in shape because we are trying to be like, the advanced democracies that we have. But
and that word, Omolara, let me just say,
back to the military rule is not the answer.
No, but
we can invest in what we have and make it better.
That word institutions is very important. And so while you have the symbolism of someone like a Buhari, and what you expect him to do is to inspire and get things going, it is really important that we move away from this idea, because if it is based on one person being in government, what happens when that person is no longer in government is that we go back to where we are. And so it is important that as he's inspiring over the next 4 years, we also make sure that he puts policies that will build institutions. So that at the end of the day, whether he's there or not, we keep moving forward, we keep moving forward.
I mean, just few days ago, we were talking about whether what we need in Nigeria, for example, is good leadership or good institution. And I've always voted for good institution. Because if you take Obama to Nigeria today, I'm sorry, it's going to fail. Because the system is bad.
Let me know. You're going to be our last caller today. Hello, good evening, caller. Hello, good evening. Hello, are you there? All right, go ahead, please.
This is Rashid Abdullah from Kent.
Okay, go ahead quickly, Rashid. We are running out of time.
Right. You have been talking about Ali Dangote, Babangida, and
Obasanjo.
What are the civil servants, the permanent secretaries?
God bless you.
The directors, the assistant directors, who have got almost about 4 or 5 children in this country. What are you going to say about that?
Yeah, it's very bad.
Many of them, they got houses here.
That's why.
They got houses everywhere.
Yeah.
I think you can still look into that too.
Okay, thank you so much, and that's one of. Thank you. That's a very important one. Is that
I think I mentioned it. If we are going to talk about corruption, we will talk about it holistically. It's everywhere. It is everywhere, from civil society to government to private sector. If you look at the relationship that exists between the private sector and most government, it's even more closer than what exists between civil society.
I want to bring in Kadere here. Kadere, you respect diaspora Nigerians who work within a system. You have been talking about the system. The system here works at least okay. They go back home. You are a diaspora and you move back to Nigeria. But Anne Welsh lived in the UK. She's gone back to Nigeria. We have this controversy. James Ibori was a diasporan.
Corruption. Let me tell you this about corruption. Corruption is dangerous. It kills, but it's also very sweet because it allows you to spend money that you haven't earned.
Worked for.
And it allows you to live a lifestyle that people only dream about. A lifestyle that in this part of the world is only open to entrepreneurs or people who create things and make big money.
Okay, all right. Time runs so fast when you have a good program like this. And Kaderia and Omolara, I'm so glad to have you in the studio. It's been an interesting Thursday. Viewers, it's still Politics with KO. We're going to see you next Thursday. But first, let me say thanks to Alistair Shoyede for this platform and for all our volunteers. My man from Cambridge, you're my hero. Tony, Victor, it's good night. God bless Nigeria, and we'll see you next Thursday. The political situation, and on Politics with KO, what we try and do is to go beyond the confusion and get something really meaningful.